Welcome back. Now that we've learned how to specify the locations, we will discuss the way that the positioning of objects influence the verbs that we use. First of all, let us learn the most important verbs. Akuya will read them aloud for us. Now listen carefully as Akuya pronounces these Akan words for us. Jina, te, da, si, gu, butu, chure. Now listen carefully, especially to the tones in these words, as Akuya pronounces them in Akan. And we repeat after her. Jina, jina, te, te, da, da, si, si, gu, gu, butu, butu, chure, chure. Note that the tone that we use for all of the verbs is low. This tone is known as the stative tone in Akan. It indicates that the objects are sort of static. Okay. Jina means to stand. It is used to describe humans and animals that have assumed a standing posture. If, for instance, Akuya is standing, we would say, Akuya jina ho. Akuya jina ho. This means that Akuya is standing there. Akuya, could you stand on the chair? We would say Akuya jina akonwa noso, which means Akuya is standing on top of the chair. The positioning is described by jina because Akuya was adopting the standing position. Now look at the following picture. We know that a cat is okra. Do you know how to say the position of the cat? Where the cat is located? Did you say okra no jina ono no ase? If you did, mo. Great job. Let us turn to te, which is used to describe humans and animals that are in a seated posture. Right now, I would say, Mene Akuya yete aponwaso, because Akuya and I are sitting on the chair. Now back to our feline friend from the pictures. Now, how would you describe the position of this cat and where it's located? Did you say okra no te akonya no ase? If you did, mo. Great job. Now let's consider da. Unlike jina and te, da does not apply to humans and animals alone. It describes anything that is located in a horizontal position. If I'm lying on a bed, I'd say meda mpaso, which means I am lying on the bed. Now look at this bottle. Bottle is toa. If Akuya places the bottle in a horizontal position like this, we'd say tuano da ponanoso. Books also lie in a horizontal position most of the time, right? So for this book, we'd say noma no da ponanoso. So keep in mind that anything that assumes a horizontal position will be described with da. The next verb is si. Si is used to describe inanimate objects that are positioned on their base. Look at the bottle again. This time I've put it on its base. I therefore say toa no si pononoso. Another object that we'd use for si is a cup, which is called bonsoir in Akan. So you see, we've positioned the cup on its base. We therefore say bonsoir no si pononoso. Our next verb is gu. Gu is used to describe non-living things that are spread over a place. For example, when you try to position grains at a place, they spread. Look at this grainy food known as gari. It is made of cassava, or what Americans call yuca. You can see what I'm talking about when some of the grain falls on the paper as it spreads lightly. I would say gari no gu kratanoso, because the gari is spilled out and poured on top of the paper. Liquids like water that spills on a location also spread slightly. Look at the water on this paper. We'd say nsoa no gu kratanoso, because the water is spilled on top of the paper and it's spread out, which is gu. Even large objects that are spread over a location are described with gu. For example, if I'm doing washing and I throw the clothes on the bed, I'd say intadieno gu mpa noso. This means that the clothes are on the bed. If it is just one item of clothing, which verb do you think we'd use? It is da, because the clothing will be horizontal in position. But note, that's only if it's one item of clothing would you use da. The final two verbs are butu and chire. Butu is used for objects that are used to cover over things or turned upside down. So if we turn this cup upside down like this, we'd say bonsia no butu pononoso. Chure is used to describe objects that are leaning against other things or other objects. So if you lean a ruler against the whiteboard, I'd say ruler no chure whiteboard no hon. For this discussion, we can establish the following pattern for locating objects in Akan. This is the pattern. You would say object, position verb, location, and part of. So we put the thing that we want to describe in the object position. For example, it could be the cup, bonsia. We put the verb, the position verb, positional verb, next, which is si in this case, is on its base. The location goes after it, which in this case we have ponono, which is the table. And this part of refers to part of the location, which is, we use so, because it is located on the table, so. We said earlier that if you want to say someone is standing there, you use ho, which means there, and you don't add any specific part of location to it. The one real location that does not require you to mention part of the location is the ground. If something is positioned on the ground, you use fam to describe the location. Examples of this would be, I could say, toa no si fam, which means the bottle is located on its base on the ground. Another example would be bonsuya no si fam, which would be the cup is located on its base on the ground. And another one would be nsua no bu fam, which means the water is scattered or spilled on the ground.